Welcome to Unmasking Dementia Lived Experiences, a podcast that features families who have navigated the challenges of caring for loved ones with dementia. And as well, we'll hear from experts who are leading the way in this journey. My name is Christiana. I'm a registered nurse, dementia advocate, children's author specializing in dementia education, memory care specialist, owner of reputable memory care facilities in Toronto, Canada, as well as the founder of a Roseau Grandma Wellness Hub, a charitable organization that caters to the challenges faced by communities of Black, Indigenous, and people of color on the path of the dementia journey. Dementia does not just affect individuals, it impacts the entire family. While everyone's journey is unique, we gain a lot of strength and encouragement from hearing other people's stories. So please join us as we raise awareness, offer support, empower, and unravel the complexities of dementia together. I'm very, very excited to introduce to you today Mary Vari. She is the first member of our Alexis Lodge family to guest on Unmasking Dementia Lived Experiences. Mary and I first crossed paths in 2023. 2003.
2003.
Yes, wow. So Mary's mom came to live with us, and Miss Jean Cudmore came to live at Alexis Lodge. And as soon as Mary moved in, came with the mother, she didn't know, she practically did move in. As soon as Mary got involved with Alexis Lodge, she took the initiative to paint the home, like the entire home, by herself. And Mary would come at night to do her painting. Prior to Mary, our painter was a lady, so the staff did not even know Mary as a family member. So this gave Mary insight to the operations of Alexis Lodge, both at night and during the day. And since then, Mary has embraced every facet of Alexis Lodge. She actually became our marketing director and established our website. As well, she created marketing materials that we still use to this day. Mary has provided exceptional services and offered support every way you can think of to propel Alexis Lodge forward. And her ability to surprise me knows no bound, such as the time when she transported boxes of my daughter's inaugural book, which she published at the tender age of 17, all the way from Buffalo to Toronto. I received a text message saying the boxes are on the porch. Prior to this, Mary completely covered her dining room with these books for weeks. And last October, when we launched a Roseau Grandma Wellness Hub, the charitable organization, Mary made the largest donation to this day, simply expressing, "I'm investing in you, Christiana." Thank you so much, Mary. So professionally, Mary has a Bachelor of Science in Education, teaching in public schools with a focus on special needs children, and program development for a music school where her children attended. Additionally, she orchestrated extensive concert tours for teenagers across our continents before the internet era. So you can just imagine how Mary coordinated these activities. And later, she taught at Humber College and served as the executive director of a trade school in Toronto. Her most profound professional experience occurred during her tenure as director of marketing at Alexis Lodge, where her mother resided. It was there that Mary developed a keen interest in dementia care. Today, Mary finds fulfillment as a devoted grandmother to her 4 youngsters, drawing inspiration from Christiana's books to foster understanding and compassion, especially for her brother who battled vascular dementia. Mary's journey with dementia, both with her mother decades ago and recently with her brother, reflects her unwavering resilience and steadfast advocacy. Her heart of service extends beyond the professional endeavors to many voluntary roles that she has played and continues to play. Welcome again, Mary. It is such an honor to have you, and we are so blessed to have you as part of our Alexis Lodge family.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was always blessed to be a member of this family at Alexis Lodge. I never felt so at home before. It was really great. I think just going back to what you said, Christiana, about me being so devoted as to paint some rooms in Alexis Lodge right after my mother moved in there. It's not so much that. It's more like my mother felt so much at home there. She didn't like it for the first couple of days. She thought, I want to get out of here. I want to go. I want to go. She didn't know where she wanted to go, but she wanted to go. That was her modus operandi. And after about 3 days, she said, oh, this is lovely. I think my father put that window in a few years ago. She felt at home. This was her home. And it was because of the supporting atmosphere in Alexis Lodge. But she said to me, Mary, you know, that living room needs to be painted. Let's paint the living room. So I said, okay, Mom. And so I asked Christiana if she would mind if I got a certain kind of special paint that wouldn't have fumes and all that. And she said, oh, yes, go ahead. You can paint it if you want. I had no idea why she trusted me, but but we did that so that I could be there at night. And not everybody would be around to get, wet paint on them or anything. And so I draped the living room, and I wasn't alone. There were some people who would be wandering around all night long. And I got such a good view of what goes on in 24 hours at Alexis Lodge. And I was amazed at the love and attention. I'll never forget that at 11:30, I think there was a shift change. And new people came in to spend the night, and the people from the day staff were going to leave, but they didn't run out the door. Everybody stopped and talked about each one of the residents and made sure everybody was well prepared for any problems they'd had during the day or whatever. And then quietly, everybody moved on with their business. And then one by one, some of the residents woke up and came out, and I was really kind of dumbfounded that the staff had work to do, like laundry and cleaning and whatever they had to do, but they would walk around all night long with somebody on their arm and talk to them, and every so often sit down and chat with them. It was the people who lived there that was their focus. It wasn't necessarily anything else. So I was so thrilled and surprised because of my previous experiences.
Thank you, Mary. I'm glad that, you got to experience that and you had the comfort and you trusted us with your mom. It was such a fun time with your mom. Yours is a tale of two journeys, not just your mom. Recently, you also lost your brother to vascular dementia. Please tell us what it was like, the diagnosis, were there signs, and what the impact on you and your family has been.
Well, thank you for pointing that out. There were two different instances of dementia, well, at least two in my family. And the first one was my mother that I knew of. What I didn't realize, and I only realize now, looking back, is my grandmother probably also had Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. But it wasn't talked about. I did not know anything. All I knew was that when my mother got to be about 78, 79 years old, something like that, she just started to tell the same stories over and over. And I would tell her, Mom, you told me that a million times. Yes, and she'd tell me it again. And then she started forgetting things. And then we realized maybe she's not able to drive her car like she should. And so bit by bit, we made some changes in her life without her knowing about it. She stayed home, but like my brother took some wires out of her car so she couldn't drive that. And we took some wires out of her stove and just gave her the microwave to work with. And it seemed like she could handle it pretty well. But it got progressively worse. And we kind of knew this was like an old person's illness, probably. We didn't know what it was. We had never talked about it. We didn't know anything about it. So if anybody out there feels like this is new information for them or that they just don't understand what's going on, I understand what you feel like. My daughter was working in the hospital, one of my daughters, and she was working in a part of the hospital where people who had brain injuries and other kinds of problems, where she was working there. And she said, Mom, you've got to have Grammy examined. And here's the name of a good doctor. Well, that should be a signal to everybody. You have to have information. You have to learn things. And I guess one of my major things I would tell people is find a great center and group of people who know what they're talking about to help you through this process. Once you suspect there's a problem, you really should try to get some information. And I would say it's essential to have a network of people who are educated in this process, who know what they're talking about, like Christiana, who are able to give you some support and help guide you through the right people, the right processes. A Rose for Grandma's Wellness Hub. A Rose for Grandma's Wellness Hub is an excellent resource for this. You can find all kinds of information there. At the time that my mother, I remember taking her in for her test, her mental test, and I was really perplexed by the doctor's diagnosis that she had beginning stages of Alzheimer's disease. And I thought, what is that? How did she get that? All that. And I kind of went back to my high school, how to write a good paragraph, the who, what, why, where, when, and how, because I did not know who, why, what, where, when, or how to do anything about this. It was new to me. It was shocking. And I just didn't know. So I thought, well, what should I do? So the doctor said, you know, the day might come when she's going to have to move out of home and go to a place where she can be taken care of. I said to him, how will I know when that is? He said, you'll know. And I thought, what do you mean I'll know? I had no idea. So at any rate, with my mother, I lived 160 kilometers away from her. I was working. I was going to school. I had to stop going to school and working part-time so that I could run the 160 kilometers to her house 3 or 4 times a week so that I could help make sure she was living properly. And I would stay overnight, and sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and she'd be standing beside my bed looking really, really angry and really, really afraid, because she was afraid. She didn't know who I was. What was I doing in her house? And she would ask for my identification and accuse me that I had made up the identification. She didn't know who I was. She was frightened. I can't say I was hurt. I was more worried than hurt. And I was angry at this illness. I didn't know what this illness was doing to her. So time went on, and we tried to keep her on certain medications that had been recommended for her. But her ability to take the recommended medications was not always done on time or on the right day. So one night, I was not there. And I got a call from the fire department that they had to break down her front door because she had called 911 to say that there was a problem. And when they got there, she'd gone back to bed and forgotten all about it. But a fireman came and they had to chop down her front door and come in. And they said, your mother really should not be on her own. And they said, we're taking her to the hospital. And at the hospital, I was told that she needed to be going to a home to take care of her. Well, she lived a long distance from me, as you know, and I didn't know what to do except to get the very best that she could possibly have. So I found what was at the time, and it was kind of in those days, it was kind of a new topic. People didn't talk about dementia really. And there were these new institutions in the area, and they cost an absolute fortune. It was like $10,000 a month. And she had worked really hard all her life. She had a good savings account. She had a pension from work. And so I was able to afford this. And I thought, well, this will be okay. She'll get better and everything will be fine. So I did enroll her in one of these places, and it was pretty. It had all the bells and whistles. You know, they say there's the wonderful food and great care and all this, and recreation and beautiful views and television and everything. Private room. So she knew she was in an institution. She didn't trust it. She wanted to go home, and they wouldn't let her because the doors were all locked. And she struck out. She was very, very angry and scared to death. She was fighting for her life. And this, like I said, it was a new concept at the time to have these homes. Previously, I think people had just been sent to a nursing home and not taken care of properly. And not that nursing homes are bad, but it's just that their special needs were not taken care of. And so the staff was kind of new too. And I don't think the staff really had proper training, because it was not long, maybe 2 months before my mother was so afraid that she actually fought with one of the staff and injured her. My mother was really tiny, but she was strong and she was scared. So people who are suffering from dementia, they don't understand what's going on. They do act out sometimes. The key is that I learned at Alexis Lodge, you have to be able to anticipate that and diffuse the situation, which they do so beautifully at Alexis Lodge. At any rate, so they told me that my mother couldn't come back there. I had to find a different place for her. So I found the next place, which was even more expensive and had bigger windows. And they said the food was going to be fabulous. And you could smell the cooking all through the whole building. Well, I never smelled anything there. And I saw a lot of hot dogs and processed food, but it was beautiful. And my mother was not happy again. She knew she wasn't home. And again, the staff was just not prepared to respect someone with dementia. These people have feelings. They have dignity. They have every feeling that you have and that I have at home. Fear, happiness, love, joy, crankiness once in a while, and not being able to control things on their own. They do get afraid. So my mother stayed there for about a year, and there came another time when she fell. And so she was taken to the hospital, and her injury was not severe. And she was put into an physical therapy situation. So she was put into another residence with physical therapy. But the physical therapy person would not work with her because he said, well, she doesn't understand what I'm asking her to do. She won't lift her arm when I tell her to lift her arm. I said, well, you have to just be patient and tell her a few times and show her, demonstrate to her. And he said, well, I have other patients. I I'm sorry, I just can't do this. So I would drive to 160 kilometers 3 or 4 times a week whenever she had her physical therapy appointment and sit beside her and say, lift your arm. That's right. You're doing great. And give her some encouragement. I'm probably talking too much, but I'm just trying to help you understand how little I understood. At any rate, I thought this is really not working. I lived in Toronto, and I thought to myself, I have to bring her home with me because she was from Toronto originally, as was I. And so I brought her home, and I found a home there because I knew she couldn't live in my apartment building with me because I had to go to work from time to time. And I knew if I was to leave the apartment, she might get into terrible problems, so get lost or whatever with the stove. So I found a really nice place there that had a unit for people who needed to be kept there instead of allowed to, walk around in the neighborhood. So she was there for a few months, and she kept leaving. She kept escaping because there were other residents there who were very happy and kind enough to give her the code to get out the door. So she would just push the code and go out the door and look for her way home. She wanted to get home. So after calling the police 3 times to come and get her or find her, whatever, they said, I'm sorry, she can't stay here any longer. She has to leave tomorrow. I said, tomorrow? And they said, yes, she cannot stay here. So I was really up a creek. I had no idea what to do. I called and called and called everywhere, and nobody was going to, it had room for her or whatever. And there was one number that I just couldn't get. I just couldn't figure out where was this place. I didn't know what it was. It was called Alexis Lodge. I thought, what kind of a lodge is that? And and I wanted to find a really good place for my mom. And then the place that she was staying at, that she was going to be asked to leave, or forced to leave actually, said, we're going to put her in our locked facility overnight because she cannot stay here. So I was terrified. I didn't know what that meant. So I went with her to this locked facility where it was obvious that there were people there who really could not function on their own. And I said, Mom, I'm so sorry that you're here. I said, tomorrow we're going to move out of here. And she said, that's okay, Mary. This is where people like me belong. In my heart. At any rate, I went home, and I think it was after hours, and I called Alexis Lodge. I finally found the number. And somebody said, oh, sure, we have room. Bring her over. So I said, well, let me come over and take a look at it first. And they said, sure, come on over in the morning. So I walked over. I drove over in the morning, and it was a house. It was just a house. And I thought, well, this is odd, because all these other places I had taken her to were great big institutions. And I walk up to the front door, and some lady was walking in the front door and taking the mail out of the mailbox, and I had a key to get in. And I thought, well, she works here. And so I said, good morning. She said, well, good morning. And I said, I'm here because I was told I could possibly have my mother come live here. And this person, who turned out to be Christiana, said, of course, bring her over. We'd be happy to have her live here with us. Well, I thought, okay, I don't know who this lady is, but she seems really nice. And I walked in the door. Now, I don't know if you can imagine what you expect when you walk into a residence where there are people who cannot take care of themselves. But the first thing I noticed was the smell. I could smell homemade chicken soup cooking on the stove. I could hear music. I could hear laughter. I went around the corner. People were dancing in the living room, just having a nice time. And the music was playing. They were dancing. People were playing bingo in the dining room. And Valentina, the chef, was cooking homemade chicken soup on the stove. And it smelled fabulous. Everybody looked happy. Some people were taking naps. Some people were just having a great time. But it was a happy atmosphere. I saw my mother's potential room. It was a nice private room. And I said, we'll be right back. I went and got my mom as fast as I could, and some of her good things that she liked, a little special rocking chair and things that she likes from home. And we moved in, and she thought it was okay. It was okay. But then when I left, she didn't like the fact that that she couldn't leave too. So a couple of days later, as I told you, she felt right at home. And I was so thunderstruck by how everybody treated her like their grandmother, like that was their mom or their grandmother or their auntie. And it was just fabulous. There was always something going on that was, not busy all the time, but there was always something that would keep somebody's attention. People were walking around, not sitting in wheelchairs all over the place. It was like being at home. If my mother got up at 10 o'clock in the morning, Valentina would make her breakfast. She didn't have to get up at 8 o'clock with everybody else and have breakfast. And it was like a home situation. It was special. I think I probably talked too much about that.
It's a beautiful story. The whole purpose of this podcast is to have families hear other people's story because, there are lots of people that are struggling. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. And a lot of doctors, especially family physicians who are the primary care physicians, basically just say, you know what? Take this pill when they need more. When they need a little bit, give a little bit so that people are struggling. You touched on a lot of points. It's so important that if your loved one has, is starting to act out of sorts, please seek help. Early detection diagnosis is so important. Reach out, get, your loved one assessed, and try to learn everything you can about dementia.
Yeah.
It was about 23 years ago or something like that. Or is it about 24? Okay, about 21 years ago that Mary went through these challenges. However, not a lot has changed, but not a lot has changed in other areas. There are still families, like dementia just creeps up on you. You don't know, and you get this diagnosis, and you don't know what to do. You don't know where to turn. You don't know what community agencies to go to. There are lots of resources. Unfortunately, most families that have to deal with this situation, some of them are not tech savvy. It could be that 80-something, 90-something-year-old man. And we need to have more resources in community centers. Dementia needs to be a household name. Everyone. That is why my books start from as early as elementary school. Like in one of my books that is coming up in May, Dancing with Memories, a journey through mixed dementia. It was the granddaughter, who actually brought up the facility that another friend's grandmother was living at. That was how they found help. So it doesn't hurt for all of us to be aware, because dementia does impact all of us at some level or the other. It may not be Mary who has gone through this, not just one, but 2 times. Like from what she has learned, she's not out there being able to reach people, but I guess if you are able to listen to this podcast and you hear her story, you will know, when things are happening to your loved ones, what to do, where to go. And, there are a lot of family members are scared to seek out homes for their loved ones with dementia. Like in the BIPOC communities, it's like taboo for a lot of people. But my belief is that if your loved one is at that point where they are no longer able to do anything for themselves, where they are just sitting at home staring at the 4 corners of the wall or just watching television, that does not help them. Get them a good home where they can have stimulation, because mental stimulation, physical, social, psychological, all this really lend to helping people live longer and better quality to their life. So please find out what you can learn about dementia. when the time comes. There's no, forget about the shame. There's no shame. No one subscribes to dementia or any other disease. Just, do the best you can for your loved one, because chances of you getting burned out, getting frustrated, and the older caregiver dropping dead because they are caring for someone not having the ability or the time to care for themselves does not serve anyone. If you're no longer able to care for your loved one, you are doing them a disservice. So please, learn about dementia. Let's join hands together and continue to give people with dementia a good quality of life. So Mary, your story, like, there's so much, it's so emotionally packed. Can you please just share a little bit of how you were able to cope with all these emotions? You talked about it, you laughed, you were creative and everything, but it must have taken its toll on you. What can you tell other caregivers to help them along?
Well, I was much more fortunate than my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, because I found the kind of care that you get at Alexis Lodge. I found the kind of care that you can find in books that you've written, Christiana, like A Rose for Grandma, or Unmasking Grandpa, or Unraveled. Those are excellent books to go through with children and adults. I gave one of those books to my daughter-in-law. Her grandmother was going through a period of dementia, and she said that it was helpful to her to understand her grandmother that way. It's so important to learn, like you said, educate yourself about dementia, and I think that's what helped me with the emotional side of things. Pardon me.
It's early in the morning, so we are froggy.
I know. I'm froggy all the time. But I think for me, it was, I guess, it was helpful for me to learn. It was helpful for me to be able to be at Alexis Lodge every day and spend time not just with my mother, but with the staff that worked there. There was always something happening that was of interest to the people who lived there. In my mind, people are sometimes put into little boxes of some sort where they would be medicated so that they wouldn't be acting out, they wouldn't be angry, they wouldn't be fighting for their lives like my mother felt like she had to. And I found that at Alexis Lodge, a lot of times people would come there heavily sedated, and then eventually they would wean them off a lot of these medications, maybe just give a little bit just to take the edge off, but most of their medications were eliminated because the staff was so ready to engage with people and talk with them and try to find out what it was that was triggering maybe an anxiety attack or whatever, and diffuse that ahead of time. I can remember laughing because, pardon me, there were a lot of people who came to not volunteer, but to learn at Alexis Lodge. Students would come, and there would be people come to play music, guitar players and etc. And I think it's the National Ballet Company has people come in to work with the residents in terms of movement and feeling like they're really beautiful dancers and communicating with one another. And this is all something that can happen, but not if people are heavily medicated and stuck someplace in a wheelchair. You have to make sure they have the best opportunities to enjoy the time they have left. Like all of us, we all have only a certain amount of time left. So we should make the most of it. And I think sometimes I used to laugh because I'd have to wait in line to talk to my mother because there would be so many people ahead of me talking to her about something or engaging with her in some way. People would bring in animals for people to pet. I was bringing my mother's dog sometimes for people to pet. My children would come in. One of my daughters is a professional violinist. She would come in and she would play music for people, and they loved that. And I remember there was one lady who was, I guess, of a Hungarian background, and Vanessa, my daughter, happened to know a Hungarian folk song, And this woman, the woman who lived there, hadn't really spoken with anybody for I don't know how long. I've never seen her talk. But when my daughter started to play this song, um, all of a sudden her eyes flew open. This lady's eyes flew open, and she said, and she started to sing the song. And it was just really magical. But these kinds of little bits of stimulation, even bringing a moment of happiness to somebody's life when they're otherwise just sitting there, not being able to do too much. It's important. It's important to be educated about what are the possibilities that somebody with dementia has. Somebody with dementia has a lot of possibility in life in terms of what they can enjoy, what they can do, what they can teach you. And I think it's important for us to remember that.
It's so true. Yeah, you mentioned the National Ballet School of Canada. There's actually this documentary film on YouTube, and Alexis Lodge was lucky to be a participant in that film, called Dancer, Not Dementia. So, just focusing on enhancing quality of life and eradicating stigma through dance. It's so important. Like, there are times when we have residents who are agitated, and, you just engage them in music or dancing, and you see them smiling. So those little things really do make a lot of difference for people. It's, this is not anything. I'm not trying to sell Alexis Lodge here, but I just feel from my experience that the smaller settings are much better for people with dementia. Smaller, familiar, supportive environment, because people with dementia can still do a lot if only they are guided, simplify the steps, encourage them, even if they are not doing it the right way, just have that patience. And, a lot of this you can do at home as well. The National Ballet School of Canada has programs that you can access in your own home. And, the weather is getting better, going for walks, doing fun things outside as well. Again, I love to just hit on self-care. As a caregiver, it is a 24/7 thing. Caregivers, it's not easy, especially when your loved one has dementia. Try to find help where you can get it, and when people offer you help, please take it. Because sometimes you're so focused, you feel like you are the only one that can help your loved one. Please accept help, rest, and you'll be a better care partner for your loved one. Thank you so much, Mary. You've shared so much insight, so much information. I'm really just awed by your story from where you started to where you are now. I do hope that more people, become proactive when they are faced with this devastating journey. Because sometimes this journey can be very lonely. You lose friends, you lose family members, you're going at it alone because people don't understand, or people criticize you. The person that is living with dementia may tell another family member that, oh, I was abandoned all day, or I wasn't given food to eat, without actually knowing where that is coming from. People start to have discord, in families. It breaks the very fabric that holds families together. So I just hope that, people actually try to come together. At the beginning, we did talk about you being on a double journey, having to deal with mom like decades ago, and now your brother recently. Can you share with us some of the challenges that your sister-in-law faced while your brother was undergoing this vascular dementia journey, please?
Yes. Pardon me. I think my brother's illness was about a decade long. It was about 10 years. We figured he was ill for about 10 years, but we just noticed these small changes in him, and we knew something was happening, but we weren't sure. But my brother was always he was like the man of the house, and he was the caregiver, and he was the one who was working, and he was the one who was taking care of everybody. And then all of a sudden he found himself angry because he couldn't do all those things anymore. And here his wife was doing things for him. And it didn't make sense to him. And so he would sometimes show his anger, but he might hit or push or say something really unkind. And it wasn't like him, but at the same time, his emotions were a mess at the moment. He didn't know what to do. He was trying to recapture his life as he knew it before something had gone wrong in his mind. His wife, Dee, was so devoted. She loved him dearly, and she did her very, very best to look after him and keep him safe and well as she could for as long as she could. And she did a great job. She started to feel housebound. She was not able to go out. She had to stay home with him. They tried all kinds of things with alarms on the doors so that if he went outside, the alarms would go off. She was trying to get things to return to normal. She was thinking about how he used to be, and she was just trying to find a place to go for herself or for him to get a little break now and then. Her niece and I would come over from time to time and spend time with Ian while she went off and did grocery shopping or just went out and had a cup of tea or something. But it was very hard on her emotionally. We did manage to get my brother into a daycare program that he could go to, and they even provided transportation, but he refused to go. He went once or twice, refused to go, and he became combative. He would get injured sometimes because his balance was off, and so he would fall down, end up in the hospital. He wouldn't understand where he was. He would be fighting people. He would have to be restrained in the bed. It was a horrible, horrible sight. Their son really didn't know what to do. His best friend was his dad. They would spend a lot of time together. And now that the son felt kind of alienated from his dad, he just didn't know what to do. So it was hard to see all of these different emotional differences and trying to keep everybody in tune and let's move forward. Let's figure out how can his wife handle things financially. We have to see a lawyer that handles this kind of work. We should see a specialist who can handle his medical needs, another specialist who can handle his psychological needs. For this, we needed to have guidance. And sometimes, like the social worker at the hospital could be of help. Some of my family members that work in hospitals, my daughter Jocelyn, as I mentioned before, she worked in the hospital, so she was able to help us, guide us in terms of which doctors to choose and which departments to work from. But it was the emotional toll that was really very difficult. And I think the Rose for Grandma Wellness Hub is an excellent resource in terms of what to do, who to see, where to go, how to do it. And it's just emotionally, it has to be you have to look at yourself and say, I have to take care of myself if I'm the caregiver. If I can't be well, either can the one I'm trying to take care of.
Yeah.
I'm just reading a book right now because, of course, I'm wondering what happens if I end up with dementia, because it can happen. Well, how will my family handle it? Well,
none of
a
us
lot better educated than I ever was.
Yeah.
But I'm reading a book right now called Outlive, which is written by Peter Attia. He's a doctor. And it's a book that helps you to see how the science and the art of longevity, healthy longevity. And I know, Christiana, you have talked quite often about good health, good exercise, trying to keep your own self as healthy as possible. Anyway, I just wanted to say that
prevention is so important. I know a lot of us talk about dementia, how to care for dementia, people living with dementia. How about preventing dementia from happening? Because none of us is exempt. It's not something we subscribe to. If you're not, it doesn't just happen because you're getting older. And there are so many types of dementia. Vascular dementia is one of the most preventative type of dementia, in the sense that it's from vascular diseases, some of which can be mitigated against, like having high blood pressure, having diabetes, having high blood cholesterol. Those are things we can manage. I think I read where a lady said, scale numbers and age and everything. She was tired of talking about numbers, but numbers are so important. Those your numbers, your blood sugar, blood pressure, your cholesterol. Sometimes cholesterol is sort of neither here nor there, because sometimes the impact is different on different people. But living a healthy lifestyle cannot be understated. What we eat, what we drink, when we sleep, how we manage stress, all these things can help us prevent dementia and other chronic diseases as well. You also talked about your brother's son. This is the reason that I started writing children's books. If there's no one to explain what is happening to that young man, if he does not get it, he will develop, hatred or anger towards the dad, not knowing that it's not something that is under dad's control, that is the disease that is impacting the dad. So a lot of families, I mentioned that dementia breaks the very fabric that holds family together. Some family members never forgive their loved ones because of the pain they cause. Like you had mentioned, your mom will be angry with you, saying you are an imposter. Some people take that to heart and they never get past that. But if we understand this disease, and it's so different, there are no two people with dementia that will exhibit exactly the same symptoms. Like your mom and your brother, it was different if you look at their journeys. So learning about the commonalities of this disease and using that as a guide for whatever is happening in your own family. We are all unique individuals, so we will exhibit unique symptoms. But just having the general idea, having the support, and, also, no one wants to medicate people, but there's a role for medication also in this disease. When the person is too agitated, you cannot redirect them. Yes, you could use some medication, but just a little bit at a time to see find the sweet spot where the person can still function, can still have a life and be able to do things. The goal is not to sedate anyone. The goal is to help them not feel tortured within themselves, but to help them have that calm so that they can continue to enjoy life. Thank you so much.
There's so much exciting news now in the medical community and just living community about dementia. It's really getting a lot of attention now, finally, and I'm just so excited that anybody who's listening to this podcast, you're very smart, because you're trying to find out about dementia, and you're trying to find out how to take care of whatever problem seems to be, poking its nose into your house. But it's really so important to learn and to take care of yourself as well. Yes. There is so much to be learned, and I think it's wonderful that anybody who's listening to these incredible information podcasts that Christiana is sending out. I just think it's great, and bless you all.
Thank you so much. And please join us on Unmasking Dementia Lived Experiences as we continue to hold hands and join hands together to unravel dementia. Thank you again, Mary. It's been a pleasure having you, and may God continue to be with you in all your endeavors.
Thank you.
Let's join hands together as we unravel dementia.